the past, computer hackers were known as pesky geeks, but now some have become a real threat to our national security. Tonight, our Paul Johnson takes us to a new battleground. The age of cyber warfare has begun.
When Russia and the tiny country of Georgia went to war last year, one of the things that the Georgians quickly found they were up against was not just tanks and bombs, but a devastating attack on their computer networks, blocking the government's ability to communicate at the worst possible time.
It's a cyber carpet bombing.
And in Afghanistan recently, 3/4 of the computers on a major U.S. Army base were infected with a virus that caused them to transmit information about troop movements. The source, a simple thumb drive, prompting the Pentagon to ban the use of them.
Indeed, in today's world, acts of terror could come not only from a few extremists in suicide vests, but from a few keystrokes on the computer.
In announcing his new cyber crime initiative, President Obama confirmed that as he was running for his nation's highest office, his campaign computers were hacked. And recently, researchers at the University of Toronto say they uncovered a massive global hacking ring that they think originated in China and had targeted Tibetan Buddhists, among others. They called the ring GhostNet.
We've only begun to see the tip of the iceberg.
Sources say that cyber defense is now one of the biggest concerns among top security officials in the United States. It's why the White House has created the new position of Cyber Czar, and why the Pentagon has plans to create an entirely new unit known as Cyber Command. A new realization that any computer that is online is vulnerable, from a government's best-kept secrets to a company's hard-earned profits.
The attacks that we've seen as they continue to increase are becoming more sophisticated and more widespread.
The central problem, experts say, is that the original designers of the internet never could have imagined that so much of the world's business would one day take place on it. It simply wasn't designed with that kind of security in mind.
Anybody with a laptop and a wireless connection anywhere in the world can attack some of these networks.
Estimates vary, but for businesses, it's now thought that the annual cost of cyber crime has topped $100 billion.
The financial services sector has seen fraud against their networks and against the banks has more than doubled in the last 4 months.
So what is being done about this threat? Government and businesses are throwing hundreds of millions of dollars and their best brain power at it. The problem, though, is the money and brain power of these new hackers, who show they can very quickly adapt to breach any new firewall that's put up against them.
The bad guys of all sorts can penetrate those perimeters very readily, do so all the time.
Dr. Stephen Bucci leads the cyber defense efforts for IBM.
We are all at risk for this sort of attack and need to prepare more efficiently to address them.
And while most are seeking financial rewards from their crimes, there are those that are strictly out for information, cyber espionage. The U.S. believes that Chinese hackers were recently able to steal sensitive information about American submarines and their new Joint Strike Fighter.
And even if they don't want what you have, which is a bad assumption, they can use you to get to someone else that you might be connected with.
But the nightmare scenario that worries officials most is a cyber attack on critical infrastructure, something that could disable the power grid, air traffic control systems, or even a nuclear power plant. Hackers who would be able to cause physical damage, actual cyber terrorism.
There is a possibility in the immediate future of being able to hack into, say, a chemical plant and cause for instance, a Bhopal, India type event on purpose. That was an accidental release. This could be done by manipulating, hitting the enter button on another continent, and suddenly there's a release of all sorts of toxic chemicals that could cause death and destruction.
Like so much of today's business that has migrated online, so have criminals and possibly terrorists, and authorities are struggling to catch up.
I had one analyst describe it to me as it was science fiction, but it was not fantasy. Fantasy being something that could never really happen, science fiction being something that we really can't do today, but we're going to be able to do in the future, and probably in a future that will come faster than we think it will.